Hello and welcome to Skipwith Hall. So today we're here at the facilities management facilities in an area where they recently completed a stormwater restoration project. So the first thing you can see when you're looking at this site is these permeable pavers that we have. So these look traditionally just like normal bricks, but they have a bunch of small gaps in between them with gravel in them that allow water to infiltrate. So when water passes through these, it'll go just directly into the water table, and through that, it's actually funneled off into a few storm drains that we have that filter into waterways, which are actually the same waterways that flow into the dell that we saw on another tour earlier. So some other elements of this site are green roofs, which you can't see, but they are right here, as well as right there. I'll move from that building. And those effectively take water, infiltrate it, so some of it is stored in the soil and in the grass and vegetation that's on top of the buildings. And then they're also released as spouts that lead to the same streams that I mentioned earlier. And one other thing to mention is that they have diversity in landscape. As you can see here, they have plants that are not just traditional grass that we often use, and that's good for pollinators, and those plants also soak up water and filter it.
And so here we are on the other side of Skipwith Hall. As we can see, permeable pavers over here is what Reese was talking about earlier. It allows for water to drain into an underdrain, and it goes into a drain over that way before going out behind us into the bioretention pond. And we'll be checking that out later. This whole area was leveled out because there was a lot of runoff going directly behind us. Mostly what happens is the water that would be going this way is able to drain here and then drain into the bioretention pond. But this area really only accounts for a small bit of the runoff compared to the green roof and compared to the permeable pavement over behind Skipwith Hall.
All right, so we're here behind the Skipwith Hall building, and this is the bioretention filter that Garrett was talking about earlier. Up there is the little landing. It's a little 10 by 10 foot landing that drains into an underdrain straight to this bioretention filter, and as he mentioned, it only accounts for a small portion of the bioretention on site. So here we have the permeable pavement. This is permeable asphalt. We'll get to some other permeable concrete later. And one of the interesting things about the permeable pavement here is that the utilities actually run straight through here. They're super shallow, which is a little bit abnormal for permeable pavement. One of the other interesting things about this permeable pavement is they have to actually vacuum it once a year because cars driving through here, obviously at facilities management, they've got rocks and sand and stuff coming through here. And it'll clog up the pores, and if the pores are not open for that water to go through, it'll just sit on top and defeat the purpose of the permeable pavement in general. And this being a drive aisle as well, we'll go over and look at the parking later, but because this is a drive aisle, the bedding under the permeable pavement actually is thicker than the parking because it sees so much weight on it on a daily, and the big trucks are always coming through here. So we have to have that thicker bed so that the concrete doesn't set. And we'll get to the other part in a sec. All right, so we're here in the parking lot of Skipwith Hall, where we've seen that facilities management at UVA has done a little bit of an experiment. Here we've got permeable concrete, and over there we've got permeable asphalt, and we're just trying to see which one works better. And I want to do a little bit of an experiment here myself. We're just going to pour some water on this. You guys can see it soak right through the concrete. It won't sit on top, but after a few seconds, it will go straight through. One of the other interesting things we had on our tour is you'll notice that over there they don't have any permeable pavement, and that's because this building actually blocks the sun, so when it gets icy in the winter, the ice will just stay there, and that's like really problematic for the permeable pavement. And then if you look to my right here, we've got some of the gravel and dirt that they use for things they do around grounds, and that's super problematic as well because that getting in the pores, as I mentioned over there, really blocks all this water from soaking through and getting into those underdrains and
Although we would love to implement more water management strategies, such as the ones we've talked about, there are some limitations. For example, the permeable pavement does not have a high loading capacity, and also you cannot drive quickly on these roads. Therefore, we have to use different strategies such as the bioretention filters and the green roofs. These three technologies work as a system to help Skipwith Hall filter and manage their water sustainably.